It's been 5 years since my last DevilNeverCry collectible video. Since then, I've managed to procure a wide variety of different types of collectibles and memorabilia, and I want to go through them in this video. With that said, let's dive right in. Sorry, Barney. We're gonna have to move you out of the way for this one. Right, let's start this with a banger. This right here is Dante's alternative outfit or jacket from DMC2, created by Diesel. For those of you who don't know the backstory there, I believe the producer, Tsuyoshi Tanaka, used to work at Diesel and still had ties there when they were creating DMC2. So they managed to get Diesel to create the outfits for the characters, and as a bit of commemorative merch, they made a set of these jackets. This is a large. Time to see if this thing still fits. Not quite sure I can get away with rocking the corduroy jacket and shorts combo, but we move. God, this thing's tight. These next two I won't be able to show you on the main camera, but as you can see here, I've got a set of 2 posters for the 5th anniversary of Devil May Cry. Silver layer posters sold only on the Capcom eStore at the time, but these infamously have a rather peculiar description of Dante, with deadly swing of huge magic sword. I love it. And I guess what we'll do here in some of the B-roll that you're seeing at the minute is probably go through some of this layer by layer. I'm gonna make sure I don't drop any of this putting it on my desk. A lot of you who have played DMC5 will know what this is. I went cosplaying as Nero a couple of times at MCM Comic Con, and we couldn't do that without the blue rose, of course. Used to have the orange tips on them, no idea where they went, but cool nonetheless. This right here is another absolute banger, of course, as I try not to destroy it. But this is a replica of Dante's belt buckle from DMC2, again created by none other than Diesel, commemorative of the release of DMC2. I believe there were only about 400 of these made, but don't quote me on that. This one here is a size 36, way larger than my actual waist. They are quite rare, again though you can find them from time to time on the internet if you're diligent with your searches. Up next we have something that isn't licensed by Capcom, but is still cool nonetheless. This is a replica of the Key of Ardor from DMC1. Coincidentally, I also have a tattoo of this over here, actually the first tattoo I ever got. Cool trinket, very cool trinket. Got it off somebody from Etsy who makes these sort of things. Up next, we've got 3 different Japanese versions of Devil May Cry, 1, 2, and 3 of course, if I can show you without some of that glare. Essentially, I've managed to pick these up at a retro game sort of convention. Quite cool nonetheless. Managed to pick them up for actually a pretty good steal of a price. And then we have the Devil May Cry Memorial album, Precious Tears. So what this does, for example, is it documents some of the events of the game, the cutscenes, and it also goes through and shows some of the concept art at the same time as well. Also does have an interview with a couple of the producers across DMC. I then have a set of complete master or guidebooks that were published in Japan for the Devil May Cry series, and this actually culminates in a pretty interesting one for DMC1, because I believe this had some information here that speedrunners were able to use at a period of time to help optimize the run. It's also got some interesting lore tidbits here, like for example the fact that this membrane between the human and demon world is supposed to be something akin to a net, which is why some of the smaller demons can make their way into the human world much more easily, sliding in between the gaps of the net, and some of the bigger, more powerful demons would have difficulty. How accurate that is, or whether it's considered canon, is up to interpretation. Up next is a set of KT figurines for the original Devil May Cry. Again, not in the best of condition here, but I managed to pick them up as part of a bit of a bundle. All DMC1 inspired. We've got Dante, we've got Nello, and we've got a bunch of the marionettes, which I still stand by as being some of the best lowercase demons that we've had in the Devil May Cry games. Moving on to something oddly peculiar, but cool nonetheless. It's a set of Devil May Cry pins, modeled after a casing from ebony and ivory. I've actually got 2 of these, so that was the first one you saw there. These are fairly hard to come by. I think there was only a limited set produced of these, as with a lot of the cool things, Japan only. And if you've been keeping up with some of my shorts or TikToks, then you'll notice or recognize some of these orbs from some of the shorts that I've managed to do, but these are a set of DMC1 orbs. I've got a couple of blue, I've got a couple of red, and I've also got a couple of green as well. These came alongside the KT figurines that I managed to purchase. Up next on the collectible list is this necklace inspired by Alistair. So back in the day, Capcom actually collaborated with the Gothic Lolita brand Miho Matsuda, which managed to produce a set of DMC-inspired jewelry. Again, limited batch, only sold in Japan, incredibly hard to come by. Moving back to some more contemporary items, we've got DMC5's original soundtrack on CD here by Laced Records, I believe. And we've also got the soundtrack for the original DevilNeverCry anime on here as well. I think those of you who are on the internet back in the day will recognize this picture very well. God, how many edits there were of Dante with a bloody guitar. I think this thing is legit. I'm not entirely sure, but it cost me like pennies, so if it's not, hey-ho. In here, I've actually got a different selection of DMC demos, so let me see if I can take these out without snapping a goddamn disc. So this right here is a demo disc for DevilNeverCry. I believe this is for the US region. This right here is one that I remember very well. This is my original DevilNeverCry demo disc, which I believe came with Code Veronica, which I think my brother sold, so I don't know where that is, but we managed to hold on to this. God, that opening sort of warning is seared into my brain, which wasn't in the final product, which is a shame. Something slightly rarer though, we do have a DMC2 demo disc here. Only in Japan it says here, and it's not for sale. So whoever sold this to me is probably locked up in jail right now. Not really, I hope not, but pretty cool nonetheless. Apologies if I sound a bit rough, by the way. I'm currently under the weather, but I wanted to get this video done in good time. So up next is actually a promo copy of DMC5. So back when I was still relevant, before I was washed, cooked, etc., etc., Capcom invited me down to the offices for a couple of pre-release streams for DMC5 as a way to say thanks, as they gave me a hookup with DMC5 mad early, might I add. This was like back when I was just starting YouTube, didn't really know how things worked. When I tell you I ran to the station and booked it home as fast as I can. God, that was a fun day. In the spirit of demos, however, we also have, I believe, one of the trial versions of DMC3 that was not sold, but I guess given out in Japan. Quite cool. It features some of the concept art, and I believe this is the version that features like the different UI and slight tweaks to the gameplay. I think this is the one that has the physics system for Dante's Code, which I don't think was in the final version of the game, which is a shame. That then brings us on to this random sort of artifact, an E3 2001 press CD. So this was given out, I suppose, to press covering E3 at the time. DMC was actually shown off at E3, I believe. I'm not sure if it was the 2000 or 2001 version. Still cool nonetheless. We also have a UMD of DevilNeverCry Note of Naught. If anybody can remember what UMDs were, bloody hell. Dalliance with a PSP was fleeting. Still one of the best handhelds of all time, though, I'd argue. And to round off this small pile in front of me, no idea if this is legit or not. I don't know what it is with things about the original anime, but this is basically all of the episodes of the anime. No idea if this is officially licensed, but yeah, again, cost me absolute pennies, so I figured why not. So this bad boy right here, I think a lot of you might know what this is. I'll get a close-up of it here for you guys to see. This is a pre-order incentive for DevilNeverCry 2. It's essentially a necklace that is based on the DMC2 edition or version of Rebellion, but I actually own not one but two of these, so maybe I'll do a giveaway of one of these because I don't really need two of them. Up next is a collection of different DMC games, which I'll quickly rifle through. We've got a sealed version of DMC5, the deluxe edition. I've got a sealed copy of DMC5 Special Edition for PS5. I've got a steelbook version of DMC5. I don't know why I've got so many copies of DMC5 looking back at it now. Then of course I've got the HD collection on PS4 and PS3 as well. Platinumed the games basically twice each, which was, yeah, that was an experience. That brings us on to DMC4 Collector's Edition. Very special copy for myself. I love this design. I think this is like hands down so much better than the one that the US managed to get. On the back of it, I actually managed to get this signed by Itsuno-san, and if I've got some images or some video of that event, I'll chuck that into the video here. Slightly smudged, but I managed to get some setting spray on this thing so that it would not sort of smudge any further. Surprise, surprise, I've got another copy of the DMC4 Collector's Edition. This thing was starting to rust all over, and I didn't want to show up to that DMC event with a rusty copy of DMC4 to sign, so I actually bought the second one because it was in much more pristine condition. And then we have DMC3 Special Edition, again, signed by the legend Itsuno-san himself as well. Signed at the same event, of course. This is my own original copy. I've had that for, well over a decade at this point. And then we've just got a standard version of DMC3. This also has the demo for Monster Hunter. You'll notice that a lot of the demos in the PAL region have this just generic blue sort of design to the discs. Wasn't the biggest fan of them, but we move. This here is DMC2, again, original copy. God. Just, yeah, you look at the back of this thing and you get so hyped. I remember being just bouncing off the walls and then just getting into it and it just feeling weird, you know? Back then as a kid, I didn't understand why it was that I just didn't like it as much as the first, but even back then I used to think, wow, there's something wrong here. Up next is a limited edition of DMC2, and I say limited in air quotes because it's really not. It does feature obviously some different things on the back of it and on the front of it too with Dante there, but if you look at the discs, it does actually say, there's no manual here too, which is fraudulent. But it does say on top of the discs, which you probably can't see, promo only and not for resale. So somebody was given this and they were like, damn, I don't want this in my house. Up next, DevilNeverCry. Fantastic game where I fell in love with the series, even at the ripe old age of like 4 or 5, being blown away and scared out of my mind too, because those marionettes, man, I tell you. Then we have 2 copies of Code Veronica X, which this one kind of, no, sorry, it's this one. This one gives away why I'm bringing these up. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, came with a demo of Devil May Cry. And the Japanese edition in particular is quite interesting because I believe this actually is the earliest incarnation of a playable Devil May Cry. And yeah, this is the one that features the weird UI where Dante's health bar looks like the devil's herb. Putting the games away for the second and going back to some of the more eccentric stuff. These right here are just like bog standard, I think 3D printed versions of Ebony and Ivory. I don't even talk about these much anymore. What I do want to talk about, however, are these. Initially, I thought these were licensed by Capcom, but they're most definitely not. And some of these instructions and sort of things should kind of allude to what they are. But these are Garage Kit versions of Ebony and Ivory, created by, I think it's Dai Nippon Giken, which are to-scale replicas of, again, Ebony and Ivory, which you're meant to sort of put together yourself, and then paint and sort of finalize and finish yourself, which I do want to do, and I've mentioned before that I do want to do that, but yeah, materials are expensive, and obviously I was moving at the time, super busy with work, etc., but hopefully by the end of the year, I'll find some time to finish those off, and I'll bring you guys along for the journey too. Pressing ahead, we have a Xbox One copy of DMC5, signed by, of course, Hideaki Itsuno, creative director, alongside producers Matt Walker and Michiteru Okabe. A gift from Capcom themselves, which was incredibly awesome and kind of them to give me. But as we've gone through quite a bit there, is anybody feeling a little bit hungry for some Faustian pizza, perhaps? This is a Japan-only sort of special edition, or the pizza box edition, of DMC4. I'm pretty sure DMC4 didn't actually get a physical copy of the special edition, but Japan did, which is pretty cool. But it also includes a premium music selection, still sealed of course, and a production note sort of mini art book, which includes a plethora of interviews alongside details on the game and its development, and concept art for the game as well, which is pretty cool. Some very cool stuff in here if you've not seen it before. Then to round out this pile, we've got the DMC2 necklace that I previously mentioned. We've got a Devil May Cry keychain from the Capcom eStore. Again, no idea how rare this thing is or what year it's from. I just know that you can't really find all of them all too much on the internet easily these days. And then we've got this bad boy, which I've kind of shown quite a lot in some content. This is, again, another pre-order incentive, Japan only, for Devil May Cry 2. So many pre-order incentives thanks to the success of the first game, I suppose. But it is a replica copy of Dante's coin as part of a keychain. You can take the coin out, and just like the game, it is double-sided. With the, I mean, all coins are double-sided, Jesus DNC. It's got the same thing on both sides, I should say, just like the game. Next is the DMC3 manga. Surprisingly hard to come by these days. They're getting rarer and rarer, particularly that Volume 2. And we can't talk about the manga, of course, without talking about the novels. This is the Devil May Cry 1 novel. Part of it is canon, some of it's been retconned. And then we have the 2 novel here, which basically no one talks about. But this is the one that features the alternate dimensions. You can tell just by the back of it what era this is from. I mean, you probably can't see that, but yeah, probably things you don't want your parents to catch you reading, or do, I don't know. You know how people are these days. We've got a selection of promo cards for the original Devil May Cry. These are like very lightly laminated, pretty cool, in almost pristine condition as well. We have got some screenshots here on the background, which is funny because they are all from that DMC1 demo disc from Japan with the weird UI and Dante having the short coat instead of the long one. But this is limited edition, and this apparently is edition 7,969. We've got a funny number in there just for good measure. And if you weren't creaming your pants at that, we also have a version of these for DMC2 as well. Cool prints of some of the characters. I say some of the characters, realistically it's Dante and Lucia. All art that you can probably find online these days. But yeah, it must have been cool back in the day. And again, this is also limited. Apparently this is edition 6,456. So how many there are out there? I don't know, I'm gonna wager maybe like 10,000. Cool piece of DMC history to own nonetheless. There probably is a DMC3 version, but I've not seen it anywhere, so. And then we have Dante's selection. This, believe it or not, is another sort of pre-order incentive for the game in Japan, and it features 3 separate tracks, and I believe that's a mini CD format there. That's really cool. That's like a piece of history right there. Most people look at that and be like, how is this possible? But we also do have some flavor text here on Yukihiro and Masami Ueda, who I believe obviously worked on the soundtrack of Devil May Cry 1. Really cool to have. My DMC1 bias, though, is clearly showing. Then we come to what I consider to be the white whale of my collection. That's what I tell myself because it took 2 bloody years to find this thing. But if I get some close-ups for you here, this is a silver replica of the rusty key from the original Devil May Cry on a choker necklace, it looks like. And I think only a few of these were created and I think sold at Tokyo Game Show like well over a decade and a half ago. Now, there were several different versions of sort of like the necklace or the strap here. But yeah, I searched for this thing for ages after finding out that it was a thing, routinely searching before I finally found someone selling it. Up next are the Devil May Cry 4 Deadly Fortune novels. I'm trying to get rid of the glare there. If you put them together, they actually form an image. These, I believe, are supposed to be canon to the game, all entirely in Japanese though, so my Japanese sucks, so there's no way I'm sitting through and reading that without getting baffled. We have a couple of cards that came with the KT Figurines, or the figure collection, which is quite cool. And then we have this bad boy, which I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with. The piece de resistance of that collection is the collectible sort of figurine of the Devil May Cry van. I should probably take this out of the packaging, maybe actually display it somewhere on my shelf. Up next is effectively a collection of a lot of the different sort of books, art books, sound books, pieces of paper that you want to, and comics too actually, before I forget about those. Speaking of comics, let's start with those, shall we? So you might have seen some of these before. This is effectively a retelling of the original Devil May Cry. Not entirely sure if these are 100% canon, but unfortunately, like is the case with a lot of Devil May Cry projects, it's completely unfinished. There was a 4th volume that was planned, and I believe the company went bankrupt before that could happen. Is it Dreamwave? Then we have the Note of Naught Material Archive, such a cool name, Note of Naught. Note of Nothing, which features a lot of the things based on script and continuity. Then we also have some interviews with VAs, mocap. If you are a Devil May Cry fanatic like myself though, a lot of that you'll likely have seen somewhere on the internet. Then we have the Devil May Cry Perfect Guide by Versus Books. Primarily the reason that I bought this is because it features a massive sort of poster of Dante. I won't perhaps maybe get the whole thing out, but yeah, you can kind of tell exactly what that's going to be. It's a bit of a weird thing for it to say perfect guide at the fucking bottom though. Thank you Versus Books for destroying what could have been an amazing poster. I wonder if Versus Books are even still around. They probably are, and if somebody's watching from there, I didn't mean any harm. Please don't take me out my sleep. Then we have the Devil May Cry graphic arts book. Funnily enough, it's titled the 3142 graphic arts, which that order's now been retconned to be 3124. Sneaky Capcom, eh? Didn't want to sort of address what happened in DMC2 and the continuity, so they're just like, we'll just put it before 4 now, actually, and that way no one can ask us any more questions. Again, chock full to the brim of concept art, but I think what the cool thing is about this book is just all the little tidbits from the development team. This has been localized and translated, so it is available in English as well. You don't have to go looking online for fan translations. Unlike the Devil May Cry graphic file, which, if I can showcase some of this, an art book that showcases a plethora of things about Devil May Cry. Some staff goods. You can see some of the pin badges there from beforehand, but there's also a series of what looks to be like Polaroids. So Ebony and Ivory and Alistair there, which were used for a US advert for the game, which is quite cool, are listed on here. And again, if you're a DMC1 fanatic like me, you'll probably also have the graphic edition. Just gives a bit more of an inkling into the art of the game, alongside a plethora of like different staff drawings to kind of get some insight into what the team behind the game were thinking. Your boy Hideki Kamiya as well. Oh, and then of course, I can't forget to mention the DMC1 dress. If there's anything that you want to capture the heart of a DMC fan, it's the DMC1 dress. Yeah, we're gonna stop staring at that before we get distracted. Film DVD book, The Trinity of Fates. Again, this is less so about what's actually in the book itself, and more so what's on the DVD that's just been imprinted straight into the back there. Then we have the sound DVD book, The Sacred Heart, which I think features one of my favorite all-time pieces of art on the cover. What's really cool about this in particular is that it features like these little sound reviews or music reviews from the creators, both in Japanese and in English as well. And it kind of gives you an insight as to like what they were thinking or what the process was behind each of the tracks in the actual soundtrack itself. Again, flipping forwards in time though, we do have the Devil May Cry 5 official artworks. A whole heap of the concept art behind the game, alongside the thinking of it. Everything's got commentary from the development team on there, which is quite cool. Then we have the Devil May Cry 3 soundbook. Again, very much like some of the other ones. And then last but not least for this pile, we have the DMC2 Dance with the Devil. Yep, you guessed it, sound DVD book. We do have a really cool sort of high definition render of the rebellion there, which I've not actually seen anywhere else. And then as we start to wind down the video, we have of course got the Devil May Cry, the Bloody Palace board game. Don't have any of the extensions, sadly. I still need to actually get stuck into that. Maybe I'll do it for a stream of some sorts. Let me know who you'd want to feature if that is the case. Oh, and before I forget, there's actually a couple of things up there, as you can see with the old sign. We have a Devil May Cry 5 poster, I think actually 2 of them here, signed of course by Hideaki Itsuno and Matt Walker. And then we have the notorious, the infamous Devil May Cry sign, which you see in a lot of my videos. And that, for the time being, is my Devil May Cry collection. You'll notice that it is quite biased towards some of the older titles. I think there's a lot that they're putting out there for Devil May Cry 5, or even the Capcom Cafe at the minute, which doesn't really tickle my fancy all too much. There's no doubt that at some point I'm probably going to start picking up even more, but for now, I think I'm happy. And with that, we come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to stay up to date with anything and everything Devil May Cry. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.